Hey man, you ever talk to a woman and feel like you're speaking to a character? Like nothing's real anymore? Like she's more concerned with how she looks on her Instagram story than how she acts in real life. Welcome to the modern world, where women don't really exist anymore. Not in the way our fathers or grandfathers knew them. What we have now are facades, filters, characters playing a role. There's no depth, no substance, just this endless performance for attention and admiration. And if you're not careful, you'll fall in love with a mask and blame yourself when the mask falls off. That's why I wrote Letting Go, not just as a book, but as a lifeline for men who feel like they're losing themselves trying to hold on to someone who never truly existed. If you're tired of chasing shadows, tired of the confusion, the anxiety, the what did I do wrong loop playing in your mind, this book is your exit. It's priced low for a limited time, and the link's right there in the pinned comment. Don't miss it. Coming back to our topic, we live in a time where everything is curated, where even pain is staged for likes, where beauty isn't natural, it's constructed pixel by pixel, layer by layer. From filters that smooth out flaws to personalities built on trends, the modern woman is no longer raised, she's programmed. Not to love, not to build, but to attract, to market herself, to perform. And in that performance, her real self fades. Not because she's evil, but because no one ever told her that her real self was enough, so she hides behind aesthetics, behind status, behind stories. And the man, who's still looking for something real, he's left talking to a ghost. Try asking a modern woman what she values in a man. You'll hear a script: confidence, ambition, emotional intelligence, height, humor. But it's not her speaking, it's the algorithm. It's the TikTok she saw yesterday, the influencer she follows, the vibe of the moment. She doesn't even realize her desires are borrowed. And when a real man shows up, one who doesn't perform, one who doesn't play the game, he doesn't feel refreshing to her. He feels confusing because he doesn't fit the fantasy. He doesn't mirror the illusion she's built in her head. And instead of adjusting to reality, she calls him boring, toxic, or intimidating. Look around. The lines between reality and performance are blurred. We've got women editing their voices, filtering their skin, photoshopping their lives, and then wondering why no one connects with them on a soul level. Because connection requires truth, and truth is terrifying when your entire identity is built on attention. You ask her how she's doing, and she gives you a meme. You ask her what she believes, and she gives you a quote. You ask her who she is, and she gives you a trend. You keep trying to find the woman, but all you get is static, because she no longer knows who she is without the noise. And the saddest part, this isn't just happening online, it's leaking into real life. Women now carry their curated personas into coffee shops, into dates, into relationships. They've learned to smile when they're sad, to flirt when they're numb, to act powerful while feeling completely lost. And the men dating them, they're falling in love with projections, illusions, not people. You think you're getting a partner, but you're getting a performance. And when the curtain falls, when the real woman comes out, full of wounds and fears and confusion, you're already too deep, already attached. And now, you have to choose between walking away from the lie or pretending it's still real. We're not just talking about makeup and selfies, we're talking about a deep psychological shift, one where women have been conditioned to see validation as love, where attention equals worth, where likes mean acceptance. And when that's the foundation, when your soul is fed by strangers' approval, how do you ever sit still long enough to love one man, quietly, faithfully, truthfully? You don't, because the moment that man stops giving her the high of admiration, she'll scroll back to the feed, back to the men in comments, back to the world that tells her she's special every 5 minutes. And loyalty, it dies in that dopamine loop. This is why good men are walking away. Not because they hate women, but because they can't find them. They can't find a woman who's still present, who's still real, who doesn't need to document every date night, who doesn't measure intimacy by how good it looks on camera, who can have a conversation without checking her phone. They're tired of competing with filters, with false selves, with fantasy. Because how do you build something solid when the person you're building with keeps morphing to fit a world that doesn't even exist? Women used to be the emotional anchors in society. They used to bring softness, nurturing, calm. Now, many bring comparison, confusion, and chaos, because they're emotionally scattered. Not because they want to be, but because the world taught them that stillness isn't sexy, that humility isn't powerful, that femininity is weakness. So now, we have a generation of women trying to be men, competing, hustling, controlling, and when they meet a grounded man, they either try to dominate him or leave him, because he reminds them of everything they're running from: peace, vulnerability, surrender. And let's be honest, brother, you felt it. That moment where you realize you're not dating a woman, you're dating her social media presence, you're not talking to her, you're talking to the image she wants to uphold. She doesn't want to be known, she wants to be adored. And when you stop playing into that fantasy, she feels betrayed, because you saw through the smoke, you saw the girl behind the glam. And instead of embracing that truth, she gets scared, because the woman underneath the facade hasn't been loved in a long time, maybe never. But here's the kicker: you can't fix her, you can't pull her out of the illusion, you can't love her into reality. She has to choose to come back, to unplug, to look in the mirror without makeup, and ask, who am I when no one's watching? And until she does, you're wasting your time. Because no matter how deep your heart is, how strong your leadership is, how pure your intentions are, if she's still addicted to attention, she'll mistake your love for control. She'll trade your loyalty for likes, and you'll be left loving someone who was never fully there to begin with. And it doesn't stop at looks or online presence. It's embedded in how she talks, walks, loves. It's why you'll meet a woman who seems to check every box: beauty, charm, ambition, but something feels off. Something in your gut whispers, she's not here, because she's not. She's lost in a loop, performing what she thinks a powerful woman should be, echoing lines from content creators, instead of revealing her true self. She might say all the right things: I want a real connection, I'm done with games, I want to be soft with the right man, but her actions scream the opposite. Because vulnerability can't exist in a costume, and love can't breathe through a filter. You'll notice it when she constantly seeks reassurance, even when you've done everything right. When your presence isn't enough because it doesn't come with constant stimulation. She needs the high of being wanted more than she needs the depth of being seen, and that's the root of it all. This modern obsession with fantasy is a rejection of being seen. Because to be truly seen requires a kind of courage that social media has stolen. You can't be raw when you're constantly worried about the perfect angle, the perfect caption, the perfect moment. And because of that, so many women today live behind glass, looked at but never known. You see it in their relationships: fleeting, shallow, based more on aesthetics than essence. You ask her what she loves about her partner, and she lists his lifestyle, his looks, his ability to make her feel like the main character. But real love, that's not about performance, that's about presence. It's about how you show up on your worst days. It's about consistency, not chemistry. But when she's never been taught how to sit in silence, how to be bored without seeking chaos, she'll equate peace with emptiness, and she'll walk away from good men thinking something was missing when the only thing missing was her ability to receive love instead of demand attention. The modern woman is overstimulated and undernourished. Her attention is fragmented, her identity is scattered, and her emotions are tethered to how many people validate her version of herself today. She's not grounded because she's not anchored in anything real. And when you, a man with vision and clarity, enter her life, it's like trying to dock in a storm. She doesn't know how to stand still. She doesn't know how to relax into leadership. She craves safety, but resents authority. She wants depth, but fears being exposed. So she runs, and she calls it independence. And I get it. This sounds harsh, but we're not here to hate. We're here to understand, to see clearly, because the moment you stop taking it personally, the moment you realize this isn't just about her, it's about a culture that has taught her to trade her soul for status. You stop chasing. You stop trying to convince her that you're different. You stop trying to pull her back from the edge. Instead, you get focused. You build. You lead. You embody what's real. Because the truth is, most of these women aren't looking for truth. Not yet. They're still chasing fantasy. And that's not your burden to carry. You ever notice how fast they change? 1 month, she's a spiritual goddess. Next month, she's a luxury lifestyle influencer. Then she's into healing, then soft life, then gym culture. It's constant shape-shifting, not evolution, escapism. a refusal to sit still long enough to ask, who am I underneath all this? Because stillness terrifies people who've built their identity on mirrors. If no one's watching, do I still matter? That's the internal war she's fighting. And if you step into that battlefield unprepared, thinking your love will bring peace, you'll drown in her confusion. That's why your strength matters more than ever. Not physical strength, but psychological, emotional. The strength to hold your frame when she tests you. The strength to stay calm when she tries to create storms. The strength to walk away. Not because you don't care, but because you care about your sanity more. That's what separates boys from men in this era. A boy chases the girl he sees online. A man waits to see who she becomes when the lights go off, the filters fade, and there's no audience to impress. Most vanish in that moment. Few remain. And when you find the one who remains, raw, flawed, vulnerable, you'll know. Because she won't speak in platitudes. She won't sell you a fantasy. She'll offer you presence. She won't need the world to watch to feel worthy. She'll look you in the eyes and stay there. And you'll feel it, not as a high but as a grounding, like finally being home after walking through a carnival of illusions. That kind of woman is rare, but she exists. And you only meet her after you've walked away from the 100 that never did. Until then, protect your peace. Vet deeply. Watch closely. Don't get seduced by aesthetics. Ask real questions. And more importantly, watch her patterns. How does she behave when she's bored, when she's ignored, when she's not being validated? That's who she really is. Not the smile on her story, not the caption under her selfie, but the choices she makes when the spotlight is gone. That's when the performance stops. And that's where truth begins. Most men ignore that part. Don't be most men. Because here's the cold truth. Brother, when women live in a fantasy, they don't want a partner, they want a prop. Someone who fits their aesthetic, who validates their delusions, who doesn't challenge their image. And if you're not that, you're disposable. Not because you weren't good enough, but because you were too real. And in a world built on illusion, reality is offensive. But don't let that make you bitter. Let it make you clear. You're not here to play a role. You're here to build a life. And only a woman who's done with the fantasy can ever be a part of that life. You see, this era rewards surface, rewards projection, rewards packaging over principle, and that has real consequences. It's why so many men feel empty after sleeping with beautiful women. It's why you can be physically close to her and still feel like she's 1,000 miles away. Because the body's there, but the soul? It's distracted, detached, and running on feedback from strangers. That disconnect is brutal, and it leaves good men wondering, why do I feel more alone with her than I did when I was single? Because presence is more than proximity, it's energy. And if her energy is always elsewhere, so is her loyalty. Let's get even more real. This isn't just about women, this is about you, about the version of yourself you become when you try to chase fantasy. Because the moment you start bending your standards to fit in, performing just to keep her interest, morphing into her ideal image of a man, you lose yourself. You trade your essence for access, and no amount of sex, attention, or temporary closeness is worth that price. You start walking on eggshells, you start waiting for her mood to shift, you stop leading and start pleasing, and in doing so, you become part of the illusion too, a man who isn't anchored in anything real. There's a danger in seeing a mirage and calling it water. You'll keep pouring into it, thinking it will satisfy your thirst, but all it does is disappear the moment you reach for it. That's what modern dating often feels like. You think you found depth, only to realize it was just really good marketing. You thought you found loyalty, but she was just loyal to the idea of being adored. You thought she loved you, but she loved how you made her feel in the moment. And when that moment ended, so did her affection. Not because you changed, but because her fantasy did. And here's what's wild. Some of these women don't even know they're doing it. They've been conditioned to live this way, conditioned to chase aesthetics over character, conditioned to value attraction over depth, conditioned to fear being still. So when they meet a man who doesn't validate their illusions, who doesn't play the role, who actually demands something real, they panic, they push him away, they project their own instability onto him, and they go back to the familiar chaos. Because in a twisted way, chaos feels safe to the person who's never known peace. That's why you must lead, not follow. You must build, not perform. You must know who you are so deeply that no mask she wears can confuse you. Because when you're grounded in truth, you start to see patterns faster. You start to notice the inconsistency, the emotional volatility, the shifts in narrative, and instead of engaging or fixing or proving yourself, you observe, you step back, you let the fantasy burn itself out. And while most men are dancing for her attention, you're deciding if she even qualifies for yours. That's power, that's frame, that's masculine clarity. Women today are living in a story they didn't write. A script given to them by pop culture, social media, broken mothers, and absent fathers. They were taught that being sexy matters more than being sacred. That being wanted is more important than being worthy. That being loud is more important than being loyal. And they believed it, not because they're bad, but because they were never shown anything else. And now they're stuck, trapped between the dopamine highs of attention and the loneliness that comes when the lights go out. They crave connection, but only know how to perform. So what do? You stay grounded. You refuse to lose yourself. You refuse to fall for projection over pattern. You don't get high off compliments, and you don't get low from rejection. You just watch. You watch how she moves when you're not around, how she handles silence, how she reacts when you say no. Because fantasy falls apart under pressure. Facades crack in silence. And the real woman, if she's still there, shows up when she realizes your world is built on standards, not signals, not scripts, but structure. And if she doesn't show up, if she runs back to her fantasy, let her. You're not here to rescue someone who's in love with her own illusion. You're not here to be another prop in her storyline. You're here to live a life of truth, of purpose, of quiet, consistent power. And the woman who's done pretending will see that. She'll recognize it, not because it's flashy, but because it feels safe. She won't need to perform around you. She'll relax. She'll exhale. And that's when you'll know you found a woman who still exists. But until then, you build alone. You lead alone. You become the man that can't be moved by charm or curves or chaos. You become the man who can say no without flinching, who can walk away without resentment, who doesn't chase fantasy because he's building reality. And when fantasy knocks on your door wearing a short dress and a long list of emotional needs, you open that door, smile, and close it just as fast. Because you know what she's bringing isn't connection, it's confusion. And brother, you've come too far to let confusion live rent-free in your mind. You've battled your demons. You've rebuilt yourself. You've learned how to stand in truth, even when the world begged you to bend. You don't need another storm. You don't need another mask. You don't need another fantasy. You need truth. And truth only walks through the door when you're done entertaining illusions. So let them scroll, let them pose, let them filter. But you stay sharp, you stay solid. Because when the real one finally arrives, she won't be looking for attention. She'll be looking for you. The end game is simple, man. You're not supposed to fit into their fantasy. You're not supposed to be the prince in her imagined story, riding in at the perfect time with the perfect line. You're supposed to ruin that story with truth, with structure, with boundaries. You weren't made to be her escape. You were made to be her awakening, and most women will resist that. They'll call it boring. They'll say you lack passion, but what they're really saying is, you're too real for me right now. And that's okay, because your goal isn't to be popular. Your goal is to be powerful in your presence, and that requires rejection. You know what really breaks the illusion? Silence, detachment, not explaining yourself, just letting her see what it feels like when a man who's solid simply walks away. No closure, no drama, just presence removed. Fantasy can't survive that. It needs you to fight. It needs you to validate the dream. But when you don't react, when you just vanish into purpose, it haunts her because it shows her something deeper than attention. It shows her that you were the real thing all along, and she'll never be able to recreate that with a man who's still playing pretend. You were never meant to be one of many in her inbox. You were never meant to audition for the role of worthy man. You were born to lead, to choose, to move with gravity. That means sometimes walking alone. That means letting go of women who look good but don't live good. That means seeing through the costume, past the curves, beyond the eyes that lie better than any words ever could. Because when you see clearly, you're no longer enchanted, you're empowered. You're no longer drawn in by surface, you're moved by substance. And 99% of what you see today, it's surface, brother. And deep down, they know it. That's why they test you. That's why they push you. They want to see if there's anything real in you. Because if they can break you, you're just another actor. But if you remain unmoved by the chaos, something shifts. That fantasy starts to crack. She sees her reflection in your stillness, and sometimes, just sometimes, she chooses to let go of the mask. Not for your approval, but for her freedom. Because your strength showed her that peace exists, and that maybe, just maybe, she wants it more than applause. But most won't. Most will keep running. From truth, from depth, from men like you. And you'll have to let them. With love, but with firmness. You can't save her. You can't pull her out of the illusion she's addicted to. And it's not your job. Your job is to remain real in a world that rewards fake. To be still in a world that's always performing. To build quietly while everyone else is broadcasting. That's your edge. That's your legacy. That's what separates you from the noise. You know who you are, and no filter can change that. So the next time you look into the eyes of a woman who seems perfect, pause, breathe, ask yourself, what does she believe about love, about loyalty, about peace? Can she be alone with herself for more than a moment, or does she need the constant buzz of attention to feel alive? Is she growing, or just entertaining herself through life? Because a man like you, you're not just looking for attraction, you're looking for alignment. You're building a world, and the wrong woman doesn't just distract you, she dismantles you from the inside out. The masculine isn't meant to chase chaos, it's meant to create order. It's meant to build empires, not fix illusions. That means sometimes being misunderstood, being labeled cold, arrogant, detached. Let them talk, let them twist the story, because the real ones, they'll know. The women who've been through hell and finally want peace, they'll find you. And they won't come with performances, they'll come with truth, humility, readiness, and you won't have to audition for them, you'll just be. That's what this whole path is about. Not perfection, but alignment. So if she's watching this right now, if any woman is still reading these words and feeling anger, resistance, denial, good, that means the mirror is working. And if she feels sadness, a quiet ache, a longing for what she's lost, even better, that means there's still something real inside her, buried beneath the likes and the games and the masks. And if she's ready to let that part out, she'll stop performing, she'll start showing up. And she'll find men who aren't trying to rescue her, but who are ready to receive her if she's done pretending. But until then, you walk. You stay grounded. You let the fantasy fade, because it always does. The filters won't last. The followers won't stay. The facade will crack. And when it does, most women will panic. But the ones who've done the work, they'll find their way back to what's real, to men like you. But only if you've stayed the course. Only if you refuse to bend. Only if you never stopped choosing truth, even when it was lonely. That's your test. That's your edge. That's your path. And you don't walk it for them, you walk it for you. So yes, brother women, as we once knew them, feel like they don't exist anymore. Just filters, facades, and fantasy. But don't let that make you bitter. Let it make you better. Because the deeper truth, they're not gone. They're just buried. Under culture, under pain, under confusion. And one day, if they choose to wake up, they'll remember who they are. But until then, you don't wait. You don't pause your growth. You don't try to fix or chase or prove. You build. You lead. You stand. Because you are not here to worship illusion. You are here to embody reality. And when she's ready to return to truth, she'll know exactly where to find it.